Welcome to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast may contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews, be sure to check out our show on YouTube. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show.
There are three types of people who, as you say, would dare to review nobody. People who don't know any better, people who are seeking to intimidate, and people like me who wish with every fiber of their being that someone would try to stop them. Who am I? I'm Reviews Without Remorse. And this is episode number 186, and in this episode, the 93rd Annual Academy Awards ceremony presented by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences was last week. No one gave a shit last year, and even less people gave a shit this year. And in keeping with tradition, the in memoriam spat in the face of several who didn't deserve it. Dave and I will briefly make fun. I almost forgot this was a thing, but Shang Chi finally gets a trailer. Dave and I will discuss. And then, never underestimate a nobody. Reviews Without Remorse will discuss the new film, Nobody. What's up, brother?
Not much, my man. Ooh, I'm kind of looking forward to this one a little bit. I can't explain why. Maybe I will as we get to it. But yes, I'm very curious to hear your take on it. And yeah. We gotta beat up on the Academy Awards again.
Well, we sure do. So let's get to it.
In 1994, it became an actual annual tradition where the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, colloquially known as the Oscars, would honor members of the community who passed over the past year between the last awards show and this one. And as usual, they never remember the people that matter, okay? They never really do. It's always, the favorites, and, it's like, they used to do a lot more, like, agents and stuff like that when they passed, and, like, people at home were like, who the hell are these people? This year probably wasn't as egregious, but there were three things specifically that I'm going to call out. Thing number one, what the hell was with the speed round? Okay?
Right.
Why it's like, we're just going to fly right through this. But don't worry, your directors are going to be able to talk for 30 minutes or whatever the hell about how wonderful their cast and crew is. But, the people that have died, we're just going to give them like a minute. Not even that. So poor Chadwick Boseman, was barely on the screen, and then all of a sudden, boom, gone. It's like, what? It's like, yeah, the guy died young and shockingly, but that doesn't mean his freaking memorial has to be. People got up in arms about Naya Rivera, and I'm kind of, she's mostly known for Glee, so, and I think she only had maybe one or two movie roles. I don't think that really much, so I can't really fault that. Jessica Walter annoys the ever-living hell out of me. Annoys the ever-living hell out of me.
Yeah, well, and again, as soon as I heard that one, I said, well, that's why we do it, that's why we talk about these people. You're the one who kind of spearheads this, and I've kind of been behind it the whole time, because like you said, they're notorious for dropping the ball in these things. And I always, I say it every year, somebody over there has one job to do. You can't keep track of the people who die during the year, especially a name like Jessica Walter. She, I don't know. But, the whole thing was a mess. I had a friend of mine just send me a text a little while ago quoting Jimmy Kimmel, and he said, it's amazing how something so woke can put people to sleep so quickly. And it's like, again, I don't want to go there, but I didn't watch it. I haven't watched it for years, and every year I get, and it's a shame too, because honestly, I used to really, really like watching the Oscars, to the point where I knew people who would throw Oscar parties and stuff. And it was always fun, because for movie people, it's a great time. But it is just unwatchable now.
10 million. That's the number. 10 million watchers. That is deplorable for the Oscars, when they usually average about 30 million viewers every year. Now, there's lots of potential reasons why that could be. Movies. Who the hell went to the movies in 2020?
Well, there you go.
barely anybody. So and this is not to excuse, but also it's just another sign of relevancy. You go through the winners. Oh, look, Anthony Hopkins won for Best Actor. Whoopity doo. We knew that. That wasn't even a thing. Daniel Kaluuya. I'm sorry if I'm murdering your name. By the way, I liked his performance in Judas and the Black Messiah, so I'm not too upset about that. Frances McDormand, Yu Jung Yoon. Soul, I also agree with. I thought Soul, of all the animated movies that were put up there, Soul was absolutely the best. Also pleased with Eric Messerschmidt. I swear to God, that's his name, Eric Messerschmidt, for his cinematography in Mank. Mank is a beautiful looking film, so I have no problem with that. And we have a Oscar-winning director now doing a Marvel movie in Chloe Zhao, because she is directing the Eternals movie.
Okay, interesting.
So, yeah. But other than that, there's nothing really here. It's just the typical, okay, we need to give something to Sound of Metal, so we'll give it to film editing. We need to give something to Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, so we'll give it to, with them for makeup and hairstyle. It's like Best Picture, Nomadland. I don't know. I got to see it, I suppose, at some point, but there it is. So, yeah. Let's just move on. It's done. It's over. Give this, it's like there was a famous quote from Malcolm in the Middle where the young brother Dewey it's his birthday, and he's just very depressed about it because he knows nothing's going to happen. And at the end of the show, when his birthday is near the end, he's sitting there all alone at the table with a sigh on his face, and he says, "I expected nothing, but I'm still disappointed."
I gave you 10 years to live your life. Now you see me rise. And where did that get you?
In Iron Man 3, we were introduced to the Mandarin, or the fake Mandarin, in Ben Kingsley's portrayal of Trevor, a.k.a. the Mandarin. In a Marvel one-shot, there was a while there, people don't realize this, but maybe a lot of people don't realize this. In between movies, they would do these little short films to kind of fill in some gaps here, there, and everywhere, which the TV shows appear to be now doing. And there was one called Hail to the King that was like an interview with Ben Kingsley in prison about his life, why he became the Mandarin and so on and so forth. And it ended with him being held at gunpoint and saying he doesn't like you doing impressions of him. Now, that was the first indication that we'd get that the Mandarin was going to actually make an appearance. Cut to a couple of days ago, Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings trailer drops. And very prominently displayed in it is the Mandarin. They don't call him the Mandarin, but that's who it is. Joe, I got to tell you, of all the comic book movies coming out, I know the least about this one with the exception of the Mandarin. I know nothing about Shang-Chi or anything along those lines. So I have my own thoughts, but I'm curious about yours. What did you think watching this trailer?
It's fine. I honestly, I watched the trailer and I just kind of went, okay, this is a thing. And I frankly kind of felt it to be remarkably boring. And I'm not saying boring like it's a bad thing, just that maybe they purposely didn't show you much. But I mean, it's kind of like hinting at, okay, we're going to get an origin story. It's got that kind of Batman Begins vibe. And then it ends on a bus. All right, fine, whatever. And I mean, and there was a little action on the bus. I mean, maybe it's kind of too early. Maybe they're just going to show you like just a real tiny little bit. Maybe this is more of a, the teaser than the actual full blown trailer. I found it to be very underwhelming, and fingers crossed. I hope it's good, but I really didn't see anything in here that kind of grabbed my attention.
Yeah, mediocre is the word I'm feeling right now. I mean, granted, I'm curious as to how they're going to hand like a mystical kung fu movie. You know, I suppose there's a part of me that's very excited about that particular thing. But other than that, I'm just kind of very wait and see, and not really feeling 100% on that one just yet. And what's with Aquafina getting like, you know, the last line in the trailer?
Yeah, which to me was kind of like, okay, Aquafina's in it. Great. I see Michelle Yeoh is in it. I mean, I'm kind of getting to where aren't there more than 2 Asian actresses in the world? I mean, do they have to be in everything now that requires an Asian person in it? I don't know. I just kind of, yeah. And Aquafina, like I've seen her in things that I actually liked very much. So great. I mean, and obviously Michelle Yeoh, I feel the same way about. Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, there was something about this that kind of to me was feeling like, okay, we have the token Asian movie for Marvel. You know, we're just gonna do kung fu, and I mean, honestly, I kind of feel like for something like this, I should really be blown away by the kung fu in this. Like the action scenes in the trailer should have really knocked my socks off. I was real surprised how little of that they actually showed. I mean, there was one. I think there was like 1 or 2 kicks on the bus at the end. You know, like towards the end of the trailer, the bus is out of control and he's fighting a couple guys, and you see him do a kick where he takes out 2 guys on the other side, and I mean another guy over here. That was kind of it. So I was, yeah, just kind of surprised how little they gave in this trailer. So, like I said, I mean, it can't be that far away. It's coming out September 3rd, right?
Yes, September 3rd, 2021.
We're in the end of April, so May is just a couple days away. So June, July, August, September, October. I mean, it's not that far off. So I kind of felt like there should be more. And we've been waiting a long time for anything from this. You know, like, I mean, they announced this a while back. And, you know, I remember back then when they announced all the new Marvel movies, they were all this whole phase was things that I hadn't never heard of. And so nothing I really got excited over. So I figured, all right, well, I guess this is just sort of the new stage of Marvel. We're going to have to introduce new players. I mean, we did Iron Man, Thor, we did Captain America, Hulk, and Spider-Man. We're going to have to branch out and do different things that you may or may not know yet. Okay, yeah, that's fair. And so I don't want to dismiss this before I've seen it. I mean, I'll certainly see it. And I mean, what do we keep saying? Marvel never disappoints. So, you know, fingers crossed. But honestly, this wasn't the trailer to get wound up over.
So they took maybe $20 and an old watch? Mr. Manson, did you even take a swing?
No.
Could have taken her, Dad.
Heard you had some excitement last night. I wish they'd have picked my place, you know?
Why didn't you take him out?
I was just trying to keep the damage to a minimum.
Yeah, how's that working out for you?
You okay? Because you don't look okay.
A bystander who intervenes to help a woman being harassed by a group of men becomes the target of a vengeful drug lord. That doesn't feel like an accurate statement on the movie. Like an oversimplification. I got that from IMDb. But anyway, written by Derek Kolstad, directed by Isla Nauschuler. I am so sorry for destroying your name. Nobody.
Before you even jump in, honestly, as I was doing my intro, I was going to introduce the film as this director's Nobody, and then I saw the name. I said, I'm not even going to try it. I'll just say Nobody.
I don't blame you. Now, the name Derek Kolstad is familiar in that he has written every one of the gosh darn John Wick movies, which is not such a surprise considering the end result of this movie. This is, I think I texted you, it's like, hey man, I can't wait to review John Wick 4 with you.
Yeah, right. And honestly, and as I watched it, I said to myself, okay, I know exactly why he said that now. Yeah, it really, you know, it's funny, as I'm watching the film, and I literally just finished it up a little while ago, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I mean, probably no spoiler there. But as I was watching it and I was sort of gearing up, I'm saying to myself, okay, it was funny how my brain instantly started to say, okay, it's not a ripoff of John Wick. John Wick is, I think it by now we can almost call it a genre, and so this is simply a genre film in the vein of John Wick. And then there was another part of me that was like, all right, stop doing gymnastics. It's totally John Wick. I mean, the whole format of this film is John Wick. I frankly, it was, to the point where I was even saying to myself, look, can we make the bad guys not the Russians so we can kind of draw some distinction? Literally, when the Russian walked into the nightclub, I was just like, oh, wow, this is just, we're not even going to hide the fact that we're kind of just aping John Wick at this point. But with that said, I did feel that this movie stood up on its own enough, and kind of like you said, it sort of does play out like part 4, frankly. Like if John Wick retired and had himself a family and something happened, even to the point where, as you're sort of listening to the internal monologue of the main character, it almost plays like this sounds like something John Wick would be saying to himself if he was honest with himself. Like I could see John Wick, on the bus, saying to himself, I don't want any trouble. But really the id in his psyche is saying, boy, I hope those guys start something, So I kind of was like, I mean, honestly, overall, this was a great movie. And quite frankly, I feel like there was even moments where I'm saying, I think this is even doing it better than John Wick, frankly, because I kind of feel like in a lot of the John Wick movies, there's a lot of overcomplication. They kind of go off on these little tangents to make it seem a little more involved than it really is. And I kind of felt like this one, it kind of streamlined everything better, and it was interesting because there were moments where I was sort of saying to myself, like, is the story working in a linear way, or are we kind of getting off on these little side tangents, or are we introducing things late in the game that maybe we should have introduced earlier if we were going to do this? But honestly, overall, I felt like it was so, and plus it's a quick movie. It's an hour and a half. Yeah. So they really did everything they wanted to do in a very succinct kind of motion. So I think this is a home run, and I'm kind of shocked how good it is.
Now, first things I need to do before I get into my personal opinion, and by the way, that was extremely well put, and I agree with almost all that. You're right. As the John Wick movies progressed, the whole mystique of like the Continental and stuff like that, and this whole underworld of underworlds and stuff like that, almost became top heavy and a little too much. This movie keeps it down to brass tacks, and I think in many respects it works better because of that. First of all, I'm going to have to put a caveat out there, and I told Joe this, and I'm telling the audience this as well. I happen to have the world's biggest man crush on Bob Odenkirk. I have loved him since the Mr. Show days. And anytime I've seen him, even as a little side supporting character in a movie, I get little giggles. But biggest of all has to be his portrayal of Saul Goodman from both Breaking Bad and the Better Call Saul series, which, by the way, are two of my favorite series that are on right now. So I admit that there might be a slight little bias here when I say that, first of all, as much as I love Keanu, Odenkirk is the stronger actor. Very obviously the stronger actor here. And what even surprised me more was just how well he did with the action. You open up with that big action sequence that happens on the bus. And I happen to really, really love that scene. You know why? Because it wasn't a case of he just comes in, like a laser just cutting through everything. No, he takes lumps. He gets hit. He gets stabbed. It's not an easy fight. It's not like he's just completely dominating them. He's better than them, but it takes like a little bit before he really gets to that moment. I mean, at one point he gets knocked out of the damn bus window and he just limps right over to the door and goes back on.
Yeah.
The thing about this movie is, I mean, art house, or anything along those lines? No. And anybody who went in here expecting otherwise, you're an idiot. I went in here as like, I want a decent action movie that makes sense. And I think it did it in spades. I really, really like this movie.
Yeah, I'm with you. And honestly, I'm getting a teeny bit nervous that this might be a short review because I feel like we're just going to kind of gush so much that we might not.
I mean, it's a short movie and there's really not much to discuss. That's the problem. I mean, it's a very, very cut and dry plot. You know, former, what did he call them? Alphabet groups. You know, that he was an auditor for Alphabet Groups. Former auditor for Alphabet Groups. Tries to have the simple life. Can't take, you know, the mundaneness of it anymore after after a home break-in. And by the way, that's how he even got the idea. Because when he was, I think before he got really big, he was a victim of a home break-in. And he just felt so powerless. And he's like, well, now I want to do one where what if the guy wasn't powerless? So that was the offshoot of this. And he was smart to get Derek Kolstad. And even the director, whose name I'm sorry I cannot pronounce, whose previous movie was the entirely first-person Hardware Henry. Do you remember Hardware Henry?
What was it called?
I'm pretty sure it was called Hardware Henry. Hold on. IMDb. I'm sorry. Hardcore Henry.
Right. Yeah.
Hardcore Henry, 2015. A movie all told from first person.
Yeah, I remember when that came out and I saw the trailer for it and I said to myself, oh boy, I probably should like this, but I don't think I get seasick just kind of playing video games sometimes. So I'm like, I don't think I could handle that movie, which is first person the entire time. But I'm with you. It's interesting how, I mean, you're right. He doesn't really have much else besides that. But the guy obviously must know what he's doing because even if I find this to be derivative of other films, he did it the right way. And I'll tell you this too. I mean, what I liked about it too, there were moments where I was feeling like the tone of the film is just right, where there's just enough. I mean, part of what's great about this film is, like you said, it's so, on one hand, because it's so gritty, it's kind of grounded. You know, the guy's not a superhero. I mean, he is, but he's not. He in spite of everything he's doing, like you said, he takes a beating. I mean, these are some rough fights. He's limping and stumbling through them sometimes. And on the other hand, there is kind of a sense like it's not taking itself too seriously. There is a very subtle wink at the audience saying, okay, we're all going to have fun with this. But honestly, not in the way that would ever distract you. So I felt like it had the tone shifted just a little bit in either direction, it could have really been ruined. But somehow he made this very believable, yet incredibly over the top and fanciful.
But weirdly, that's actually a slight complaint I have about the movie. I mean, I agree with you about the tone. Don't get me wrong, but my biggest complaint about this movie is it is literally sneeze and it's over. It just goes by that fast. And I appreciate the extremely deft and tight editing that they did, but there were times as I was watching it's like, take a breath. Just let the scene play out. There's this whole scene where he's going into what has to be the most secure place in that area. Has to be the most secure place because it's the place where all, you know, the OPSEC or whatever, is that what it was called? The place where all the mob's money comes together. Right. Okay. He goes in there and he burns the damn money. Oh, by the way, people, spoilers. Sorry. He goes in there and burns the money, but like it plays out as like a 2-minute montage while the Russian bad guy is singing. Oh goodness!
Right, he's doing karaoke or something.
Yeah, he's singing. He's singing the song while he's doing it, and it's just like these little montages of him doing this and that and so on and so forth. And a part of me is like, did you just not have the budget? I mean, because the end. Don't get me wrong, the end action sequence was freaking phenomenal and so well done. And at no point were you ever confused about any of the events that were happening in it. And it was so frantic and frenzy. It's that last action sequence is truly a masterpiece of modern action, I feel.
Yeah.
My issue is I really would have liked to have seen him take down the OPSEC.
Yeah, I'll see you there. I mean, I didn't really have the same feeling. I kind of felt like I saw what I needed to see, and I was pretty happy. So, but I can't argue with that. But yeah, I mean, I honestly, I sort of feel like one of the strengths of the film is that it's pretty streamlined. You know, it doesn't, linger. It doesn't suffer from the. It's funny that we just kind of did the Snyder cut, right? And I raved and raved about the Snyder cut, but I said, but again, this is a director who takes himself very seriously. It's like he doesn't really have the self-awareness to sort of wink at the camera. He doesn't really. I was talking to someone else just recently saying how, it's almost like he's such a nerd, Zack Snyder, but he runs with it and he doesn't apologize for it. So you kind of just go along with it and you're sort of like on board with everything he's doing. Right. So he has the very self-important slow motion shots and all this other stuff, and everything is epic and, brum. This is kind of the opposite, where he does. At no point does he kind of mug for the camera. I mean, he keeps it moving. He gives you what you need to know, and he moves on. So I mean, if he did it, like if I found out there was a sequel to this and it was 2 hours, maybe even longer, I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. I would say fine. I mean, give me more of what you did the first time. So, it's not like I'm trying to get in and out, but I feel like his, the economics of how he delivered everything was pretty spot on.
And I can't really, you're absolutely right. I can't really complain. I think what my problem was, it was more like hungry. It wasn't that it wasn't a great meal. It was a tremendous meal, but it made me, like, God,
you wanted seconds.
I did. I wanted seconds. I wanted thirds. I was enjoying, like, every single piece of this just sang to me and worked so well. And it didn't over explain and it didn't under explain. It gave you all the information you need to know what was going on, who was who, and so on and so forth. Like, the little guy's voice on the line, they never really even explain about the little device in his office that he's talking with Harry. I guess his name was, he's talking with Harry every once in a while. It's like, hey, good man, stay away, look out for the Russians, all that other stuff. Like, a little bit of an exposition device, but very well done. And I got to tell you, when Harry actually shows up with the damn sniper rifle, I'm cheering my head off. It's like, yeah, I knew it was coming, but I don't care because I really was enjoying this.
There's a long dormant piece of me that so very badly wants out.
What are you still doing here, old man?
I'm gonna fuck you up.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm totally with you. I mean, again, at no point, and even the Christopher Lloyd part at the end, I kind of felt like, that just got better and better too.
Did you know that there's like an after credit sequence with Christopher Lloyd and Harry?
No, I didn't.
Yep. Shortly after the credits, there's a little sequence of them in an RV filled with guns going somewhere.
Oh my goodness! All right, I got to go back and check that out.
Yeah, that brings me to another thing, Mr. Christopher Lloyd. Talk about going against type.
Yeah.
I Christopher Lloyd, action hero.
You know what? I like that a lot. I sort of felt like he's, I mean, Christopher Lloyd is obviously one of the greats. So it was he was such a good choice for, I mean, I kind of felt like him and Odenkirk just kind of worked well together as father and son, because it almost looked like one was sort of almost a caricature of the other.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of I thought they worked really well together as sort of father and son. But yeah, I mean, Christopher Lloyd is just perfect because he's still crazy after all these years. You know, I mean, he's still got it, and he's just such a great screen presence, and nothing has changed. I thought he was terrific.
He was absolutely amazing in this. I was, you know, I had heard that he was in it, but like that little scene in the frickin' old folks' home where the two Russians came in. I'm sorry, I giggled, and I hate that we sound like that old Chris Farley script. You remember the scene where he had the shotgun on the Russians? That was awesome.
That was awesome.
But it was. Do you know Odenkirk is like he's going to be 60 next year? He's killing me. He's killing me. 60 years old. This guy, and he's an action star now. Or at least I hope he is. I mean, I hear it's doing great on video on demand and stuff like that. But yeah, I want more stories with Hutch Mansell. I want more Hutch Mansell.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I tell you what, I would be very happy to see another one of these. I would be more than happy with it. And I feel like they did it with John Wick when you kind of weren't sure they could. I would have no problem with this one going on. Here's a random question: when the guy shows up at the end with the sniper, when the guy shows up at the end with the sniper rifle, the guy who we'd been talking to,
Harry, yes,
yeah. Did you feel at that point that was sort of a Deus Ex Machina?
Slightly. Not real. I knew it was coming, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I absolutely, when the guy said, "There's no way I'm coming to bail you out," it's like, he's coming. He's absolutely coming. They totally telegraphed that. The thing I love about this movie and what I think makes it work is it's modern yet a throwback, because it is truly like the embodiment of like 80s action, where, you know, it's slightly over the top, and it's, you know, it's got the cliche, you know, just one more job and I'm done type situation. Right. You know, and the reluctant partner like, "No, I'm not going to help you. You're on your own." And then bam, shows up at the last minute. It's all those tropes of the 80s. And yet they managed to put a nice polish on it, give it a modern look, give it a grit that wasn't like in your face grit. You know how we were talking, and you mentioned about how in movies it's almost like they're being violent for violence sake. I didn't feel that here. I didn't agree with you on some of the ones that you said that on, but I completely respect and understood where you were coming from for it, which is why I wanted to bring this up now, because I'm curious if you felt that way. Because I know you seem more sensitive to when they do the over-the-top violence than I am. I guess I'm just desensitized.
I think I'm just getting old is what I'm doing. But guilty as charged. That is absolutely true. I definitely have kind of gotten to where I don't like the violence for me depends greatly on tone. There are some times when something that's not so, it's almost like when you watch, you know, the internet, YouTube is loaded with fail videos, people falling down, hitting their heads, or whatever else. You know, sometimes, you know, so we see people all the time tripping and falling, doing whatever. Sometimes somebody stumbles and falls and it's hysterical. Sometimes somebody falls and hits something and you kind of go, "Oh, you know, I didn't like that." You know what I mean? Like it just, it wasn't, you knew it wasn't okay. And I kind of feel like violence in film for me lately is sort of taking on that same mystique, where depending on how they do it, sometimes I really just don't like it and just kind of don't want to see it. Other times it's fine. Here was fine. I mean, I was totally fine with all of the violence in this film because, again, like I said, they nailed the tone. It was all fine, to the point where, I mean, honestly, when he beat the guy so bad that he actually had to bust out a straw and give him an emergency trach. Oh my God. I mean, that was hysterical. And I won't lie, I mean, I was kind of like squirming a little bit watching it, like, oh, that's, you know, that's, oh, I don't want to see, that's gross. But I was fine with it. I was totally fine with it. So no, I'm with you, and I know exactly why you would ask me that, but I really did feel that all of the violence here was fine. I mean, and it really didn't get, like there were. It was for a movie that is excessively violent. I kind of felt like there wasn't any moment where I just sort of felt like, okay, that was over the top for no reason. I mean, probably the wildest thing that was in this movie was when, I mean, it was one thing when he splashed the hot kettle water in his face, then he basically just buried the tea kettle into his head. And I was like, all right, that's that. First of all, I said to myself, I don't remember anybody making tea while they were having dinner. But whatever. It was almost like my brain kind of went, wait a second. They were right in the middle of dinner. Nobody had the tea kettle on. But anyway, but it was just fine. And then, seriously, when they, it was almost like when they went the next step to just bury it in the guy's head, I was like, all right, that's over the top and crazy. But yeah, no, honestly, they kept the tone fine. I mean, it was, they really didn't get weird. Like sometimes some of these movies just try to get weirdly over the top with their violence. And then I kind of say, okay, it's violence for the sake of violence. Not here. I mean, this was probably, and I'll tell you something else too. You know, usually I've gotten very critical recently of the Tarantino films. You know, I mean, the guy, yes. There was no bigger Tarantino fan than me. And I kind of felt like he has sort of stumbled into an area where he's really relying on one specific gimmick, which is he tells the story so that when you finally get to this incredibly violent outcome, we as viewers are cheering on the violence. And I kind of feel like I don't know that that's working for me lately. I like it's kind of I can see what he's doing a little too well. I can see the man behind the curtain, so it's not really impressing me. The Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I mean, I panned the hell out of that movie because I as you remember, I said, boy, 3 hours and 2 hours and 40 minutes of me sitting here watching them just meander all over the place, kind of just doing whatever they felt like, the most self-indulgent thing I'd ever seen. And in the last 20 minutes, the whole movie changes tone to where it's like, okay, at 9 p.m., this one went here, and at 9:10, this happened over here. All so that we can watch this incredibly violent outburst, stomach-turning violence, and again, for no reason. It just didn't. He wants the audience to cheer on because we all know that was the Manson family. We all know that they're bad people. And I said to myself then, I said, all right, dude, when you did that routine with the Nazis, we know who the Nazis are, but this is real specific. You kind of have to sort of tell us why we should be cheering this. Even when he was doing it in Inglourious Basterds, there were moments where I was like, violence for violence sake. Anyway, the reason why I got off on that tangent was to say with this one, I felt here, honestly, all of the violence was wildly satisfying. I felt like he totally played it perfectly, where I was just chewing up every violent moment to the point where, I mean, you're literally cheering with him. Please do something here. I mean, when he's sitting on the bus going, please give me a reason or whatever, like you're kind of playing along with it, you know. You're like, yeah, do it. So yeah, I think this guy, for a small film, I mean, and I mean, this is not a big film with a big cast and a lot of money. I mean, it's a reasonably small film, and you probably could have gotten anybody to star in it. I love the fact that they went with Odenkirk, and I mean, he's terrific in it. For a small movie, they nailed this. I mean, they really did nail this to the point where I'm really hard pressed. You know, when it comes to scoring and trying to pick holes in it, I'm going to be hard pressed.
It's been a hell of a day.
You can see that.
Honestly, dude, I mean, according to my clock, we still have 10 minutes to go, but the movie goes by so damn fast that there really is not a lot more to say that just wouldn't be egregious at this point. I think we're both in sync as to how we see the movie, and I agreed with that lovely little poetic way of describing it that you just did. That rant or something like that. You know, I had a good time. And it's not easy lately for me to watch a movie where I had a good time, where there's not some level of nihilism or dourness or something like that. This is a weirdly cheerful film, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And I don't think there's really any way that we could disseminate it any further. It is what it is. It is a straightforward action movie, little bit of 80s action, little bit of modern. It's got a solid cast across the board. Nothing felt over the top. Everything, even the visceral parts, felt like plausible. And nobody gets out of it completely unscathed, except for the father. The father didn't seem to get a shot at all.
Yeah.
Poor Christopher Lloyd made it without a shot. Harry gets hit, Hutch gets hit, but the father, nope. And yep, I loved it, and I think it's time that we score it. Let's give this thing a score, and I'm gonna let you go first, sir.
Okay. I and again, I like I said, as I'm watching this, and I'm still sort of on the high. Maybe I should have waited a little bit before we reviewed it, so maybe I would kind of calm down. But I listen. Why bother? I thought this was a lot of fun. This was, like you said, classic old school action. It does ring of an 80s action movie. And and I honestly, I am still sort of sitting here just sort of mesmerized at just how right they got this, because again, I felt like just a little wobble in the tone if things got a little too serious, if they got a little too carried away, it easily could have lost me, but at no point did it ever do that. I'm giving it a 9. I think this is a really good movie, and again, I sort of go back to what I've said about. I mean, one of my criteria is, does it do what it sets out to do? And I feel that the answer is absolutely yes. First of all, I mean, it doesn't really even. I don't know how the movie really sells itself. So, but honestly, the tone sort of starts off in a way in the beginning where you sort of see where this character is, what's going on, things aren't looking so good. I felt like every time the wife said, "You missed the garbage today," I was like, "Oh boy, I know that feeling. That's Mary for sure."
How did she like it, by the way?
I was trying to watch it with her, and just because I had little technical glitches, I ended up watching it myself today. But I am going to watch it with her probably. I might even watch it with her tonight, frankly. I mean, that's how much I enjoyed it, and happy to watch it again. In fact, I might even just not tell her that I watched it, because I want her to just enjoy it as if it's the first time. I mean, this is right up her alley as well. I mean, she loves the John Wick movies. So I feel like, I mean, this is so up her alley that I don't want to spoil anything for her. So anyway, so yeah, I like I said, I feel like this movie really, it was a surprise. I mean, it was a surprise because, again, I'm glad I didn't know much about it. I knew a little bit about it. I'm sure I saw a trailer way back when. And that's kind of it, as opposed to, movies today where we probably see the trailer 27 times before we see the movie. So I'm glad I kind of didn't know a whole lot about it. It was a pleasant surprise, and yeah, just knocked it out of the park.
That all makes sense, sir. And I hope Mary doesn't listen to the show, because then she's going to realize you have watched it. 100% agreed, man. This was such a nice, pleasant little surprise for me as well. I threw it on the list I threw it on the list mostly as like a gag, because my man crush on Odenkirk and stuff like that. I'm like, Joe's probably going to be pissed at me like when we did Ready Player One. So this actually makes me really, really happy that you enjoyed it as much as I did. I was coming in trepidatious because I was like, oh God, if he doesn't like this, I don't know, maybe we'll have to break up or something. I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. Because the movie just felt so up our alleys, and this is such a not only because of its throwback nature, but I mean, weirdly, this is like our superhero. This guy's our age. This guy is absolutely positively our age. This is such an ego fantasy. I admit it. It's such an ego fantasy type of movie, and yet still feels attainable. The action is spot on. All the actors, every actor in this movie, there is not a bad note in any of them. When the little girl is like, "Oh, I'm missing my little kitty chain," it could have been played, a certain, kid actors are sometimes very difficult to get that across, but she managed to make it honest, and it just the whole catalyst for this thing, the fact that whole catalyst in the end was for nothing, it made me laugh even more when he's in the basement with the dead Russians and stuff like that, and he's basically giving his secret origin story. Come on, this movie it moves so beautifully, maybe a little too beautifully, but that's something we'll discuss a little bit further. I also gave it a 9. I had a blast.
Nice.
And sometimes you can't take that away from a movie. Is it like high art? Not really, but the action sequences are extremely competently directed. It feels exactly right. At no point did that nearly 60-year-old man, Bob Odenkirk, do anything that made me think, oh yeah, nice stunt double. It looked like he did a majority of his stunts.
Good point. You're absolutely right. If there was stunt work in here, which I'm sure there had to have been, I never noticed it once.
Yeah, and again, that just goes to show just how well put together. This is an extremely competently done screenplay and production in how it presented everything, and I enjoyed the ever living hell out of it, and I highly recommend it.
I'm with you, brother. I totally did too. Which means
who asked us?
Who asked us?
Who asked you? I'll go first because I kind of feel like I'll get the ball rolling a little bit. It's a nitpick. It is really, really a nitpick. Okay. What I feel like when I was growing up, we used to go to a Chinese restaurant all the time. And they used to have these things called the poo-poo platters. Do you remember the poo-poo platters?
I certainly do.
Okay. Poo-poo platters, just, as a 7 or 8 year old kid, you know why I wanted the poo-poo platter, simply because it gave me an excuse to say poo-poo. But one of the things I loved about it is that you had this variety of these little different foods. And depending upon the restaurant that you went to, these could be like the most amazing morsels you've ever had, or, literal poo-poo, aptly named thing. But if you got a good one, man, you wanted another poo-poo platter. And this movie really did make me hungry for more because of just how well it was done. And it is such a nitpick that I'm pulling out here. I agree. I said it in the review. I'm going to say it again. The Obshak battle. I really, really would have wanted to see the Obshak battle. I agree. In some cases, less is more. But that just felt like, and I'm sure that part of the reason why it was abridged the way it was had to do with budgetary, and I get that. And I'm fine with that. I personally think that sometimes you get better art from constraint than you do with unlimited resources. And I think this movie is a weird way of showing that. Because the one thing about the John Wick movies is as each one progressed, because they kept making more money, the budget got bigger, and the stuff just got way the hell over the top. And starting to the point that we're worried that it's actually starting to overshadow itself. This was This was a nice reminder of what simplicity and constraint can do. So, like I said, it's mostly a nitpick. I just really wanted to see that action sequence. That's just me. But the movie is not worse off for not having it.
Yeah. Okay. And I think that's very reasonable. I still, that's a very reasonable complaint. And I think that, I guess the reason why we don't see too much is just because we want to just sort of see him show up sitting at the table and not kind of knowing how he got there or whatever. But yeah, no, that's very well taken. I'll give you mine. And honestly, I don't even know if this is so much of a nitpick or a complaint as much as just an observation. And it's one of those where I say to myself, okay, well, was that the right way to go? And even if it's not, it's a tiny little thing anyway. I remember feeling a little bit in the beginning when, the break-in is in the house. He kind of goes a little, he plays it pretty cool. And, the whole point is that he opts not to be violent, and everybody's sort of looking at him like, what's your problem? And then the daughter says, where's my kitty cat bracelet? And then he just sort of busts a gasket and goes crazy and hunting down these people. And, and I thought this was cute, right? So, him beating on the guy going, where's the kitty cat bracelet? This was great. We were loving it. Then all of a sudden he just leaves, right? He just leaves because he says later, oh, they were obviously desperate. They're young and they're broke and they're desperate, whatever. He leaves when he sees that there's a kid in the house. And I was like, okay. And then he leaves and he gets on the bus, and then the car full of jackasses, bad guys, crash into the bus. They jump onto the bus and start kind of bothering this little girl. Antics ensue, and then now he's fighting these guys, and the guy is somebody who the lead bad guy knows. So okay, now we have the big army of Russian bad guys who are going to come. I remember saying to myself, was it wrong to just leave the two people who broke into the house, basically end that story there, and kind of segue into a different story? Because I sort of felt like that's what that was. Like, it was at one point when that car came racing around the corner and crashed into the bus, I thought what was going to happen is that the people in the van were somehow connected to the couple, meaning like the couple, the boyfriend, he's the one who knows a big drug dealing bad guy. He sent people to chase down Odenkirk's character, and that's how but no, it was a whole different thing. So that's kind of just my kind of like was that the right move? Why did we sort of like just essentially drop that storyline and pick up a new one? Why not just sort of connect these things? I mean, maybe it's a little too John Wick, because I mean the whole point of John Wick was that the guy who kills the puppy dog is he's the baddie, and he's what starts this whole thing. Kind of felt like this one sort of mirrored that. Kind of, it sort of rhymed with that, but not quite. Like for some reason, there's this little funny little cut in the story where we dropped this one and picked up another one. So again, hardly a major criticism, just kind of one of those where, all right, I was kind of scratching my head and wondering why.
I can see that, man. I respect that. I personally took that as a, the one thing about him as an auditor, he made it clear that when he pulled the trigger, they absolutely deserved it. To the point that when they show in his origin, there's that one guy who is begging, and he decides to give him another chance, and it turns out it was the right thing to do. The guy turned his life around, and so on and so forth. So weirdly, I think they did kind of close it with that, because he realized, you know what they did was wrong, but they don't deserve it, and that's why he walked away. And that's why when the truck full of Russians or whatever the hell that was supposed to be showed up, that's why he was like, oh, please open the door, because like he just was able to look at them and just like, they deserve what's about to happen to them.
Yeah, absolutely. That was very much true. But yeah, right. But again, why? So yeah, I mean, I guess you're making a good point. Is that he is a guy who wrestles, or at least at this point in his life is wrestling with, what is the right thing to do here. Mm-hmm. Not everyone who crosses me. I mean, sometimes people are desperate, like he said. Not all of them deserve to get bashed upside the head with a golf club. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, and honestly, I felt like as it played out, you sort of do say to yourself, okay, I mean, like, seriously, he could have taken that girl's head right off her body with the golf club. Yeah. So I sort of felt like when you saw, yeah, it plays out. I mean, it plays out correctly, and you kind of go, yeah, I like, and I like what it's doing. I like that it's exploring questions, like what would that have been the right move? Whereas these assholes, yeah, I'll kick their asses up and down the street all day long, no problem. So yeah, right. It's interesting, but again, I felt like as far as story beats go, like did it make a lot of sense? But again, like I said, at the end of the day, it's a very minor, just afterthought.
No, and it is absolutely a valid one, because it did kind of feel almost a little left fieldy. So I'm with you. It could have been better clarified. Is a better way of maybe doing it.
Yeah, or maybe just put some little something that kind of links these things together, some connection. I'm not sure. Like I said, it just did feel like all of a sudden this one story ends and this other one is going to pick up where that one left off, and it's almost like we're already getting a 2-part story within a thing. But
well, how about for your consideration, we're going to give the awards that the Oscars would never have the balls to give.
There you go. Who's going first?
Well, I did Who Asked You first. How about you do for your consideration first?
No problem. I think I'm just, and again, I think the whole thing, one of it's always hard when the movie is so consistently good. It's hard to sort of pick out something that just kind of made you a little giddy. But I kind of feel like I know the moment where I kind of got a little giddy was Christopher Lloyd sitting in the chair. The two guys come in the old age home, and as soon as the guy pulls the gun, there he is with two big guns pointing at the guy, blows one guy away, the other guy, and when the guy comes in, tell him to lower it. He's like, "Yeah, no problem." Just holds up the remote. He's got the other guy he's choking out the other guy in his. I mean, this is just great stuff. I mean, I was like, I felt like that was sort of the moment where I felt like the film was allowing itself to just have a little fun and kind of get a little carried away, but it was working. It was totally working for me. So I just love that part.
Dude, I just wrote 2 words: Christopher Lloyd. I mean, and this is nothing against Odenkirk. I guess, I started this off by stating that I have a man crush on Odenkirk. So Odenkirk crushing it isn't a surprise to me. Seeing Christopher Lloyd as an action hero and being like, I want more Christopher Lloyd action hero.
Yeah.
I want more of that. He looked like he was just enjoying the ever-living heck out of himself. And that was so infectious. So yeah, I'm with you on that one. And I absolutely am going to throw more onto the fire and say, Christopher Lloyd, mwah, mwah. Nice to see you haven't lost your touch, sir.
I used to be what they call an auditor. The last guy anyone wants to see at their door. Because it meant you didn't have long to live. But I left it behind to start a family. Hey! I might have, overcorrected.
When you left, you abandoned a certain debt that needs repayment. And your creditor is aware of your resurrection.
They came after my family.
They stole my kitty cat bracelet.
And you don't fucking do that! Give me the goddamn kitty cat bracelet!
You look like shit, Dad.
You should see the other guys.
Who the f*** are you?
Me? I'm nobody.
Wow, dude, this was a nice little break. This was a nice little break. That is 2 pretty damn solid action movies in a row. That's rare for us in 2 different groups.
Yeah.
Last week we had Kong Skull Island, and thus ends our review of Nobody, which we love.
Yeah, it's been a nice run. It's been pleasant surprises after another. I think I liked going back to King Kong versus Godzilla. I think I liked it mildly more than you did, even though it was just kind of silly schlock. The follow up to that was 2 pretty solid films, and this one I think, I mean, and just kind of solidly entertaining films. We're not. It doesn't have to get too deep to be a good quality movie. I mean, so this just very good entertaining film. So nicely done, guys.
100% agreed. Sorry that it has to be such a short review, folks, but gosh darn it, it's a fast movie. There's not a lot to say. Oh. But next week. I'm apologizing to the audience in advance as much as I'm apologizing to my partner on the other side of the country. I don't know how the hell I put this on the list or why. I'm sure it was one of those things where, with Marvel Phase 4 coming, I guess we should get the sort of Marvel movies out of the way. And yeah, so I put Daredevil on the list, all right? The Ben Affleck Daredevil, that's what's next.
I was, honestly, I have no problem with it, but I did sort of look at that and ask myself, is that for a reason? Like, was there something we had that we were doing and talking about that we ended up doing this? But
originally it was going to lead into the Eternals, because the Eternals is really going to be what the direction of Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to go in. So I kind of felt like that would be a good place to put it. But hey, what can you do, man? I'm also adding Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings because I realized I missed it. Anyway, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I really, really am sorry that I put this on the list. But you know what? We're committed. Might as well do it.
Well, I'll tell you what. You can just pretend you didn't say anything because I don't know if I've ever seen it all the way through. So I mean, I don't really have the bias just yet. Although I certainly have heard enough about it to know don't get your hopes up. But
hey, did you enjoy the Daredevil TV series?
I did.
You have bias.
Well, there you go. Good point there. Good point there.
You have bias. Once, like, if you hadn't seen the Daredevil TV series, the movie might have been tolerable.
Yeah.
Now that you've seen Daredevil, like real Daredevil, I wish you luck, sir.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, all right. So,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to kill your Pollyanna view there for a second there, but I was just
You saw me trying, right? Desperately trying to sort of.
Yeah.
But that's all right.
Yeah. I'm very, very sorry. But yes, not as sorry as I will be when I have to rewatch this Trek, which I haven't watched since it first came out. But I think I have the director's cut on my server, so maybe that'll be slightly more tolerable. But I'll check that out. But anyway, either way, sir, what a pleasure, as always, to discuss movies with you, especially one where we just enjoyed ourselves. You know what I mean?
100%. Yes, you're absolutely correct. This is kind of why we do it. You know, just to kind of be able to chill out once in a while, enjoy a good movie, and then just shoot the breeze about it, which is exactly what this was. So, well done.
Thank you. I'm very glad that you enjoyed it. Very, very glad. But yes, then, sir, you have a wonderful week, sir, and I hope Mary enjoys the movie as much as you did.
Thank you, my friend. I'm sure she will. And with that, my friend, I will see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode, and be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube for spoiler-free reviews of new releases. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider becoming a Patreon. You can find our page on patreon.com/reviewswithoutremorse, one word. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are for commentary and critique and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.
You know me. I'm Walter White. I'm not in the meth business. I'm in the empire business. You want to know what it's like to break bad? Well, I'm going to break it down for you. Because I am the one who knocks.
And I'm the one who likes breakfast. It's Walt Jr., but you can call me MC Flynn. My favorite meal is when the day begins. Yeah, I'm all about that breakfast. It's my jam. I'm talking turkey sausage, eggs, bacon, and ham. And the mood for pancakes? I am. I go mental for continental. Throw back a grand slam. Customize an omelet with all the right spices. Lean back like a Mac with my cantaloupe slices. Never had a girlfriend, yo, but don't hate. Got no time for vagina, man. Look at this plate. I like my Captain Crunchy, my home fried.
How do you want your eggs, Walt Jr.?
Let me see that sunny side.
Hey, Mr. White, sorry I'm late.
J. Pink, why don't you break me off a piece?
Yeah, bitch! Last name Pinkman, first name Jesse. Met Mr. White and things got messy. We murdered Gus Fring.
And I was eating your breakfast. Hey, let's get back to breakfast. I'll go nuts on a donut. I don't mean to boast. Do something awful to a waffle. Some French toast.
Orange juice, Flynn?
Let me think. Yes, please.
Concentrate?
Bitch, this bottle only drinks fresh squeeze.
Oh, I will take that from everyone else, but if you call your mother a bitch again, you will end up on the roof like that pizza!
You never let me do anything fun!